Hey guys, SoCal Val here. You are listening to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast.
Welcome everybody back to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. I am your host, Adam Cousins, and I am joined as usual by one of my co-hosts, Dave Robinson. Dave, how are you?
All good, man. You okay?
I'm good. Andy's still sunning himself in Spain, so he isn't joining us today. But we do have a very special guest this evening. One of the top stars in the independent wrestling scene right now. You may see her on films with Matt Cardona, doing lots of bits and pieces around. Everywhere Matt goes, this lady goes with him. She is the third C, I believe, which I'm not going to say on this show, although it is, we would allow it, but I'm not going to say it. It is the deathmatch queen, the baddest bitch on the indies, Steph De Lander. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys going?
Not too bad. It's typical English weather. Obviously, it's raining, so in the middle of our summer.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, no, I'm in Florida. It's very hot here, so that's good.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Yeah, just make us even more miserable than what we already are. Steph, thanks so much for coming on. We couldn't wait to get you on finally. It's great to finally be speaking to you. But let's just start. Look, 2023 has been crazy for you. It's been you've been everywhere. Everywhere I see a post, you're doing something. I see a video of you and Matt sort of recreating the Undertaker thing or doing some really weird stuff. It's been crazy. How has it been for you personally, though?
It's been awesome. Like, it's been without a doubt the best year of my career. And I didn't expect that to be the case, when this year started. But to me, that's just the way that it goes with wrestling. Is you never know what's around the corner, and you have to be ready for any opportunity that gets thrown at you. And luckily for me, it was just a matter of like great timing and being in a position where Matt and I were on the same tour in Australia, and he wanted to add a girl to his act. I had just come back to the Indies, and we were both on the same shows, and he just saw me and liked what he saw, I guess, and asked me to be his heater on the Indies, and that's kind of how it started. But yeah, it's been a very surreal year. It's been awesome.
It's really weird because, like, you sort of said he wanted you to be his heater because you look like you've been together ages when you see you guys on the videos. And I remember the skit at the was it the Outback Steakhouse that you done?
Yeah.
But it was just like, and even seeing you guys on like GCW and things like that, you've just got this. I don't know. I suppose it's
Chemistry.
just like chemistry, yeah, that you can't sort of teach in a lot of ways. You need that bit of chemistry there, and you and Matt seem to have it in abundance.
Yeah, it's so interesting because it's one of those things that like you can't teach that, and you can't learn that, and it either exists or it doesn't. And I don't think myself or Matt expected it to be like that natural when we started working together. But it was one of those things where it was kind of like, if we're going to do this, we have to do this 100%, and we have to hit the ground running, and we have to, do everything and anything and be extremely committed to this. And he has that mindset with everything, and I also have that mindset too. So I think it was just like two very like motivated people that were willing to do whatever it takes to make something work put together. And I think that's the reason why it has worked. But yeah, we do have a very natural like chemistry as far as working together within wrestling. I think it's just because we have a similar mindset. We have similar personalities. We're both so passionate about wrestling and very determined to like achieve our goals and what we want to achieve. And I think like we've both spoken about it. If one of us wasn't that way, like if one of us didn't have the same passion and drive, it wouldn't work, because it would be, one of us dragging along the other one. Whereas it's not like that at all. We're both pushing each other and, making each other want to succeed and want to do more and always looking for the next thing. And I think that's why it's working so well.
Yeah, it seems to be. I know he was a bit annoyed of us because we didn't book him for our show that we had in July. But
did you have a? Oh yeah.
We basically partnered with a British independent company to put on an event over here in the UK called Buckle Up, and like I tried to explain to Matt at the time, the budget requirement just wasn't quite there to bring
Yeah,
you us both from the States, and as much as we would have loved to, and we had a Nando's nearby, so I know it would have been perfect for Matt. But Dave, go fire a question away, please.
Yeah, Steph, I just really wanted to talk to you about women's wrestling and the we talk about Impact Wrestling a lot and the great job they do with the women's division and the knockouts division. Unfortunately, some other companies, AEW, perhaps they've been criticised lately about the booking of their women. What do you think it is that Impact does really well that some of the other bigger companies could learn from in terms of booking women's wrestling?
I mean, I think Impact they give the girls a lot of time, and they give the girls like big spotlights throughout the entire show. Like whenever you watch Impact, it doesn't feel like, oh, here's the token 5-minute women's segment so they can get that out of the way and they can move on to, the guys or the rest of the actual show. Like it doesn't feel like it's a guys show with a couple of girls thrown on it. You know what I mean? It feels like it's a show where women and men are pretty equally represented, I would say.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're given decent time. They're given storylines. Even in the storylines with the men, the women are integrated. And I mean, look, that happens on WWE and AEW as well. Like there are, women integrated into the men's storylines too. But I think it's just a different kind of representation. It's not just like, hey, here's the hot chick as the fifth member of the stable. It's like, whoever it is, role is a bit more deeper than that. I don't know what it is with Impact, but I do agree. I do think they are doing a great job with like representing women more. I don't know what it is that everyone else could kind of take away from it. I don't know exactly what it is, but I think I agree with you that is the case. But yeah, it's a tough thing. Like I feel like people sometimes think, because it's 2023 that it's like, oh well, like feminism won and like we're good now, the girls are good, like they got to have Hell in a Cell or they got to main event WrestleMania, so now like we don't have to worry about it and it doesn't have to be a conversation anymore. But in my opinion, it's something that constantly needs to be worked on and talked about and revisited, because as soon as that pressure stops being put on, in my opinion, it starts to kind of revert back to what it used to be.
Yeah.
So it feels like it's kind of, we're always going to be fighting that fight, which kind of sucks, but it's not just wrestling. That's just the world. You know what I mean? And we have made a lot of progress in so many different ways, in politics, in sports, and, pretty much every single thing under the sun. Women have made a lot of progress, but, there is still more progress to be made. There is, we're always going to be fighting that fight. But I would say as a whole in wrestling, it's definitely, as a female now, we're in a much better position now than we were 10 years ago.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there's definitely been like a great deal of progression, but it's frustrating for the fans as well, because you see, I'm a massive AEW fan, and we want to be seeing these interesting storylines that involve in the Willow Nightingales and the Taya Valkyries and Britt Bakers. And as you say, they seem to get more of a token segment. Ring of Honor, they've done a much better job featuring the women and having main events. So it's difficult to know whether it's a company thing or it's a network thing, or for fans, it can't be a ratings thing, because some of the women's matches that we've seen, Athena versus Willow the other week was, I don't know if you caught that match, but it was such a great match.
Yeah, I didn't see it, but I heard like a lot of really good stuff about it. But that's the thing too, is like it is a disappointing thing, because when you look at it, like a lot of people love watching women's wrestling,
Yeah.
and how many times do we have to prove that women can be, sell the most merchandise, make the most money, get the most views, have far and away 10 times the amount of fucking engagement on social media versus the guys? Like there's so many points where it's like, how could you deny the value of women on your show? And I say it all the time to guys. Like if I'm at a wrestling show and we've got a 3-hour show and there's 5 minutes of women featured total, you know, as a girl, and I'm going to say 99% of girls feel the same way. When I watch a wrestling show, I want to watch the girls. I don't care if I like them. I don't care if I dislike them. I don't care if I think they're good or they're bad or whatever else. I want to see the representation of myself on the show. I want to see what they're doing. And it was like that as a 10-year-old child. And it was like that as an 18-year-old. And it's like that as a 26-year-old who's now a wrestler. Like, you want to see yourself be represented. And I think, like, when you look at wrestling crowd now, there's so many women in the audience, like so many women, especially now since the era of like Total Divas bringing a whole new fan base to wrestling and,
Yeah.
you know, all of that kind of stuff. It's like there are more women watching wrestling now than ever before. So why are we still giving them 5 minutes on a 3-hour show? Because there are a whole bunch of people in this crowd that came to see the girls, you know? So yeah, that part is frustrating because yeah, there are a lot of people that want to see what the women are doing. But even for me, like, even right now, I'll be on shows, and I've done shows recently where they haven't even announced that I'm going to be there. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not even announced, or I'm
That's
not like,
just,
I'm not on the poster. And you look at the poster, and there's 15 guys on it, and not a single woman. But there's 5 women on the show, but none of us have been advertised. And it's trying to separate like my personal feelings about it and trying to look at it from like a business standpoint. I'm having fans constantly message me and go, hey, when are you going to be in Detroit? Hey, when will you be in Chicago? Hey, when are you coming to the UK? Like, they want to know where I am because they want to buy tickets to see me. So
yeah.
if you're booking me and paying me decent money to be on your show, is it not within your best interest to advertise it?
Well, it's
Like,
bad business, isn't it? As much as anything else.
exactly. And that's the thing. It's like I can separate my own personal feelings from it and just go, what the fuck are you doing business wise? Like,
Yeah.
you know, not trying to be like bullshit, but like if I've got 100,000 followers and you're booking me on your show, but your poster is full of 15 guys who have 2,000 followers, what are you doing? Do you want me to
Yeah.
promote shit out of your show? Because if you put me on the poster, I'm not promoting it. Why would I share a link to your show when you don't even want to say that I'm there? So
Yeah.
it's like all that kind of stuff. When you start to like think about the business side of it, it's like that doesn't make any sense either. And
No.
as I said, usually the women have a much higher social media following than the guys as well. So it's like, you know, in 2023, in the era of social media, why would you not be utilizing that side of it too?
Yeah.
But anyways, what are you gonna do?
Well, I'm really hoping personally from a fan's perspective, and I know I'm speaking for all of us at Hitting the Turnbuckle, that the recent kind of outrage in AEW with what happened last week helps now just move things on to the next level. Because I don't think we should even be having this conversation to a degree. I think it should just be a given that the women booked in the same interesting storylines. And it's not just a 5-minute match that you can't get invested in. And then, you know, you look at those ratings and perhaps that segment hasn't done great, but nobody cares about the match. And it could be 2 guys in there as much as 2 girls. If there's no story and it feels kind of lazy in terms of how it's been booked, then people will turn off regardless.
Definitely. And it's interesting that we're now in this situation again when, like, how many years has it been since Give Divas a Chance and the women's
Yeah.
evolution and whatever the fuck, which was great at that time. But they did one Evolution pay-per-view and have never seen another one since, which is fine. And I'm sure it's a business move, and I'm sure it was because of ratings and ticket sales and this and that. And I'm not saying they need to do that every year, but it's just interesting that we had that big revolt and that big movement. But now, as I said, if that conversation leaves the spotlight, all of a sudden we start slowly going backwards until it gets to a point where people go, hold on, what the fuck? And then it kind of starts up again. So that's where I'm kind of trying to say is it's like, it's unfortunate, but I do think it's important that this is like a conversation that stays at the forefront because it seems like that is the only way that like change happens, you know?
Yeah. And the women's only pay-per-view, you know, was just thrown together with it was just matches, you know, so it was always kind of doomed from that perspective. So to say, oh, it didn't do great or it didn't do what we wanted is a bit of a cop-out, really. But anyway, that's my feelings on it.
No, it's a huge cop out, and it's also because like it was done like at that time the fans weren't given enough of a reason to care.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean? Whereas now, like even now with how much they've invested in like people like Rhea and like, you know, Becky, and they've got some really big names now, and Bianca, that it's like I think it would be a very different situation. You know, like I think they would be able to build it in a way that like it wouldn't just be the girls wanting to watch it, that the guys would go, fuck yeah, this is going to be an awesome card, you know? So I would love to see something like that happen again, but you know, we'll see.
We will. Well, you touched on the name Rhea Ripley, and there has been an absolute invasion of people from Australia and New Zealand coming onto our TV screens. Steph, what are you guys eating over there in Australia for you guys to have this bigger? What's been the catalyst? I mean, I know you went back recently with Impact. I mean, what's been the sort of changeover in Australia and New Zealand for it to all of a sudden become this big, invasion
movement? Yeah,
movement. Yeah, thanks, Dave.
I think the main ingredient is just being like handcuffed forever. You know, just it's so much harder to succeed within wrestling, within sport. If you're in a band, if you're an actor, whatever the fuck you are, if you're in entertainment in any way, you know, you're geographically on an island on the other side of the world. So trying to get exposure is very, very hard. And those opportunities are few and far between. You know, like when I started wrestling, I think Emma was maybe the only Australian in WWE, and she had just kind of started. So it was like, holy shit! Like before then, there was like Nathan Jones guy, but like that he doesn't count.
Go very well, did.
There was no Australians, so it was like how it felt like an absolute pipe dream to even be able to make it there, you know. But then once, as I said, Emma, and then with the Iconics and Buddy Murphy, and then, you know, later down the line, Bronson Reed and people like that, it was like, holy shit, this actually is possible. We just need to get eyes on us, you know. But I think the reason why so many Australians do really well is because you have this like natural underdog mentality, because it's so much harder to get seen. And you know, like I remember when WWE came to Australia and they did a tryout, which is actually the tryout that Indy Hartwell did. I had shoulder surgery, so I was out at the time. I think I was 20 or 21, and I remember thinking like, this could have been my one and only shot, and I'm hurt and I can't do this tryout. And I was devastated. And now, obviously, hindsight is a wonderful thing. And of course, I was more than fine. But that is kind of what it is. It's like, you know, you don't know when they're going to come again. You don't know if you're going to get another tryout. You don't know how you're going to get seen. So it's like this real desperation of like, you're just like fighting so hard for one spot. Whereas as an American, fuck, it's a lot easier to get a tryout. You can fly yourself to Orlando and stay here and get, you know what I mean? There's a lot of other ways, you know, even like blowing up on the American independent scene. Like you can do that if you live in America. Whereas as an Australian, it's a lot harder to get eyes on you. So I think that's why they tend to be a lot more talented and driven and hungry and whatever else, is because they're, you know, you're fighting for your life basically.
Yeah, definitely. How did you find that's changed Australia to the US? If you had to pick like one thing in Australia that you could wish you could have brung with you from Australia, what would it, other than family, of course, what would it have been?
Gun control.
What?
Nice.
A general feeling of safety. No, I mean, yes, that, but no, like I would say good coffee. Good coffee.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Coffee.
Yeah, good coffee is like, yeah, you can't get that in America. There's a lot of differences, good and bad. Like there's a lot of like yeah, there's a lot of cultural differences, but also I had moved here. I mean, I had traveled here a lot before I moved here.
Yeah.
So I had been here maybe like 5 times before I moved here. And also I had mentally decided years before, like since the day I started training, I said, okay, I'm moving to America and I'm going to get signed to WWE. So from 18 years old, I was telling my family, just to let you guys know, I'm going to leave one day. Just to let you know, I'm leaving. Like when I was working at my part-time job, I was like, this is the job that I'm staying at until I go to WWE. Like I was very like, this is what's going to happen. It just depends when, but it's happening. So I had kind of like really mentally prepared myself to move and also like prepared my family and stuff. So it wasn't such a culture shock.
That's good. Well, good coffee. You need good coffee. I concur with that. I am a coffee connoisseur myself, so I need good coffee.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah.
We have that in common. Go play a quick game, Steph. This is just a random wrestling question game. So there'll be 5 or 6 random questions about wrestling. There's nothing too hard. You just got to be whatever the first answer is that comes into your head. What is your favorite wrestling entrance theme song?
The DX theme.
What about entrance presentation? So the actual presentation more than the music.
Oh, fuck. Presentation.
Mm.
You know who I used to think had a really cool entrance? Alistair Black.
Yes, when he used to come up from the
up from the thing. That was really cool.
Yeah, that was cool. You love the Brood, didn't you, Dave?
Yeah, the Brood is mine.
Yeah, the Brood was dope.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
what I'm
theatrical entrances.
Definitely.
What's the one arena that you haven't wrestled in that you'd love to?
Arena. I would love to wrestle at my home arena in Sydney. They've just changed the name of it now. I don't know what the fuck it's called anymore. But like there's one in Olympic Park, which is like the arena where WWE used to go every year. And like that would be a huge thing for me to like be able to wrestle there.
Yeah, cool.
If you could have, so if you got a call and they said, right, Steph, we're booking you in a match, you've got 3 competitors, you can choose whoever you want. Who are they going to be?
I would have, this would be the most insane fatal 4-way of all time. I would have me. I would have Nikki Bella. I would have Triple H. And I would have Rusev.
Rusev.
Yeah.
Wow.
That'd be awesome.
That would be that would be an incredible match. Steph, before we start wrapping up, what is the end goal for you now? We've said about, you've done so much on the indies, you've done so lot, you're busy. Is it still that guaranteed contract, but does it have to come with condition? Matt's already kind of said things in the past where he's like, it's got to have this, the 3 C's, as he said it before. Does it kind of roll that way with you as well? But is it still the end goal with the guaranteed contract rather than the indies?
Yeah, it is similar to Matt. But we're in slightly different situations where it's like, I don't know how else to explain it other than I have a bit more time to fluff around. Whereas, he's already been wrestling for 20 years. So for him, it's like the next couple of years are really pivotal of like what he chooses to do and what he wants to do. Whereas for me, it's like realistically, I could spend another 3 or 4 years on the outside and I'm just turning 30. So it's like, that's, I have the option to do that if I want to. Obviously the end goal is still, a whole stack of money and, WrestleManias and arenas and championships, all that kind of stuff. Like that is still the end goal. But as far as how I get there, I'm very content right now doing what I'm doing and creating, to me right now, it's important, the legacy that I'm building right now in the independence, like what I leave behind, like it's when I got released, it was do the Drew McIntyre, go and kill it and come back. And now I don't really think a female has ever done that as far as like really, really blow up and add a whole bunch of stock to their name and then go back. Yes, they've gotten fired, come out and come back, but I don't really think a female has done it in a sense of like Drew McIntyre or Cody Rhodes or even Matt at this point. Like really, really elevated themselves on an independent level. So I would love to be, you know, the name that if a girl gets fired, they go, hey, go do the Steph De Lander. You know,
Yeah.
like that's kind of what I would think is awesome. So yeah, I just want to keep killing it and, you know, become undeniable. And the more shit I do and the more value I add, the more money I can ask for and, you know, all good stuff. So I'm having so much fun right now that I'm in no rush to change my situation. So if I was to get an offer for anything, like it would have to sound pretty good for me to even consider it at this point.
It would be difficult because your character on the independent scene, I've seen it, I know what it's all about. So it would be slightly difficult on a week, well, no, even on both of the big name shows, just because of some of the action, some of the stuff that you do that may not be allowed to do it. So is the character going to be important as well, as much as here's a low shit ton of money, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean the character is important, but for me more so rather than the character, it's more just like a big part of it is going with Matt, you know. So wherever I end up, I would really hope that I'm there with Matt, and he has said the same thing about being there with me. I think together as a package we are a lot stronger together as an act. Now, whether it's, you know, you can paint that many different ways. You can, you know, we can, because right now we do family friendly shows. We did it on the weekend. We can still do our act. You just have to change. Actually, we did 2 on the weekend. You just got to change it. And instead of saying, fuck you, it's screw you. You know, it's not that, you know, there's been big bad heels on PG wrestling shows forever. It's definitely doable. You've just got to be a little bit more creative, which we can both do. But for me, rather than, you know, what character I am, it's more just like, you know, is Matt there? Is he not? How am I presented? Like, you know, with how I was in WWE as Persia, which, you know, people shit on it all the time, but I had no problem with it. I enjoyed it. I was on TV every week for 3 months. So like, you know, I don't care.
Yeah.
We got the highest rated ever. We got the highest viewed videos on their TikTok and YouTube and Instagram and whatever else. So as far as I was concerned, like we were doing well. But in saying that, you know, I don't want to come back just to be like a lower level act for 60 seconds on the show, you know. So if that means that it's in my best interest to stay on the outside for a couple more years and really build myself, then as I said, I have no issues doing that.
David,
Steph, yeah, I was just going to ask. Obviously, the opportunities on the indies have been plentiful for you both. You know, not only in the States, in the UK, wrestling at the minute is going through a real great boom period. Are there any places in the world that you would really like to visit and wrestle? Because obviously AEW are coming to the UK, WWE have been doing more global shows, Impact, we're off to Australia. So what are the countries and places in the world where you'd like to go and you'd like to wrestle?
So I really want to wrestle in Germany. So that was on my 1-year plan for this year, which I don't think it's going to happen, which sucks just because GCW is doing a Germany crossover, but I'm in Japan at the time. So I guess it doesn't really suck. It's Japan also very cool.
Yeah.
I'm running. I can't fit all my countries into this year. For me. I'll have to put it on next year. But no, I really want to wrestle in Germany. I'm also Maltese, so I would really love to wrestle in Malta at some point. So I'm trying to kind of line that up, maybe next year. Yeah, as I said, Japan was amazing, and I want to spend as much time in Japan as possible. So that was great. As far as new places, I'm trying to line up because I wrestled in Malaysia last year and it was fucking awesome. So I'm trying to get back to Malaysia, but also go to Singapore and the Philippines and Thailand. And I would love to wrestle in all of those places. Mexico, of course, like at some point I would love to get to Mexico and wrestle there. I like, even before wrestling, I've always loved traveling. So, you know, I always kind of say, if I've managed to figure out a job where I can get paid to see the world, like I feel like that's the key to life. So yeah, I'm definitely trying to get wrestling to take me to as many different places as possible.
And how does that work? Obviously, a lot of promoters and people get in touch with you directly and make your bookings. But say there's a country you want to go to, how do you kind of create that opportunity, if you like?
So it depends. So sometimes it comes to you, you know, like sometimes it's like, oh, I'd like to go here, and then all of a sudden they email you and like, oh, fuck yeah. And then if it's like somewhere that you really want to go, or for instance, like with Germany, I was
Yeah.
like, fuck, I want to go so bad that like, I'm willing to work out a deal. If they can't afford my full rate, maybe I'll give them a little bit of a discount because I really want to go and because I know I'm going to sell my merch, and you know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
value in that. Or with some places, for instance, like with the Malta thing, when I saw that there was a company in Malta, I was like, holy shit. I reached out to them and was like, hey, blah, 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 I'm Maltese. I would love to come and work with you guys. Like, let me know when there is a show. So we've just kind of been going back and forth. So it kind of depends. Some people are very much like, I will never, ever, ever reach out. Like Matt is like, I will never reach out. But for me, I'm like, it's a case by case basis. And if it's something where like I can see a lot of value in it, like for instance, like I was hitting up Brett from GCW for 6 months, basically trying to get booked. Hey, please, like this, that, whatever. I want to work with you. I was like, Joey, Janela, fucking get me in. Someone get me in, just because I knew it was like the hottest shit. And that was the place that you needed to be if you were on the indies, So I was putting a lot of effort in trying to get in there. And then Matt eventually finally got me in. So it kind of depends who you are and what level you're at, and also like how much pride you have. But for me, I'm like, I don't care if it's, if it's going to lead to an awesome opportunity. I don't think there is harm in going, hey, I'm interested in working with you,
Yeah, no, that's great.
Definitely isn't. Steph, we are about out of time, but before we go, why don't you tell people who don't know where they can find you on socials, and of your busy schedule, do you want to just select a limited amount of dates, because I will be here all night with you going on your dates, but please go ahead.
Okay, so on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok, it's at Steph De Lander. All of my merch links and everything is in my bio on my social media, so you can find all of that. This weekend, I'm at Dreamwave in Illinois. Next weekend, I will be at GCW in LA. And then later on this month, I'm heading to Australia with GCW. And next month, I'm going to Japan with a whole bunch of stuff in between. But you'll find all my dates on my social medias.
You certainly will. Steph, it's been fantastic. I need to do a quick plug. Our world title that was announced at the show that we couldn't afford to book you and Matt on. Our world title is being final. The match has been finalized for the next show. Gold Rush on the 17th of September. We will announce that next week. All participants have been informed, and we're really looking forward to that. But Steph, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on and having a quick chat with us today. We very much appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Steph. Guys,
bye, guys.
Bye, Steph. Dave, what a great interview.
Yeah, that was awesome, man. That was really, really interesting to hear her takes on both the state of women's wrestling and how she kind of networks. It's a real kind of fascinating insight for us, and I'm sure everybody watching enjoyed it as much as we have.
I'm sure they have done. Guys, this has been Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. She was Steph De Lander. He was Dave Robinson. I was Adam Cuz. We'll be back tomorrow with the review of the 200th episode of AEW Dynamite. So, Dave, please remember your sign off tomorrow.
Oh yeah, I'll practice.
Please practice, because they are wrestling on the show as well.
Yeah, no, I'm going to nail it tomorrow. I'm going to be pumped. It's going to be a great episode of Dynamite.
We hope.
We're going to have some matches for All In announced. Yeah, we will, man. That was my prediction last week, and I'm hoping it comes to light this week. I'm sure it will.
We're sure it will. But guys, this was the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. It was great to have Steph De Lander on. Until tomorrow, guys, thank you so much for watching. Buckle down, stay safe. Goodbye.